Because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, October 29th, 2020. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. And we're coming down to the end of the week. Of course, Saturday is Halloween. Sunday is the end of daylight savings time. We've got a lot to talk about today. It's been a very busy news day. It's been a very busy news week, actually. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials and keeping us out of trouble. And as usual, we're going to do news until we start running out of news, at which point we will open up the phone lines for your comments, questions, opinions, and observations here. Now, last night, Tucker Carlson had a follow-up show on Tuesday's program about Hunter Biden, featuring an hour-long interview with Tony Bobulinski. And last night, Tucker mentioned that a box of documents related to Hunter Biden had been sent from their New York office out to Los Angeles and had disappeared in transit. The package was opened and found empty. And of course, everybody's wondering, what's going on here. It turns out that the shipping company in question was UPS. And just before broadcast time, UPS came on out and said that they had found the documents after an extensive search. They're not providing any details about where the documents were found. And of course, Tucker Carlson and his producer had kept copies of those original documents anyway, so they can check to see if anything has been changed or altered or is missing here. So basically, that's where UPS is right now. They're very concerned that people think they lose packages. Yeah, this was an important one to lose. Personally, if I'd been Tucker Carlson's producer, I would have gotten one of the staffers, put him on an airplane to hand deliver documents that explosive to Tucker. So whether he's going to follow up tonight or not, we don't know, but it's certainly going to be worthwhile to set the DVR to catch that program. Now, speaking of Tuesday, the final numbers came on in, and nearly 7.6 million people tuned in to watch the show of Tony Bobulinski. That's about 2 million more than the show averages. So people were really tuning on in. We're seeing Google searches for Biden corruption and Tony Bobulinski. Interestingly enough, Google has sort of like doctored the autocomplete. So when you try and go in Hunter Biden corruption, you don't get any other suggestions that would actually lead you to anywhere. So they're still out there carrying the Biden's water. Now, getting on to Hunter's email, the liberals are still out there saying it's a Russian plot, it's a Russian plot, it's a Russian plot. We've been down that road before. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And it really was easy to predict because they really didn't have anything else. I mean, the Bidens are not denying that the emails are real. They're not denying that the laptop belonged to Hunter Biden. Pardon me. The chain of custody from the computer repair store to the FBI is solid. And the only claim they made was that Biden said there are 50 former national intelligence folks who said it's a Russian plant. And the Russia Gators are saying, no, it really doesn't make a lot of sense because, they're basically saying that Russia somehow got Hunter Biden to drop his laptop in a puddle, then take it to a computer repair store, then arrange to simply abandon it there, at which point the repair place took a look on the hard drive and found something that they were legally required to report to the authorities, and more than likely it was the various photos of extremely young ladies in compromising positions here. The bottom line is these 50 former intelligence officials don't have access to any of the information. They're not in the loop anymore. They just got contacted to lend their voice to Biden, saying, it's all a fantasy, it's make-believe. And of course, it was the accusation that Bobulinski was part of a Russian plot against this country that prompted him to go public. He didn't want to go public, didn't want to be on TV, but he felt he was being unfairly tarnished and he demanded Adam Schiff retract the statement that Schiff made about this all being a Russian plot. Schiff refused to do so, and Bobulinski went public. And Fox News is covering it. It's still giving it a great deal of coverage. Hardly anybody else is. ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, PBS, they're all still out there saying Russian plot, Russian plot, Russian plot. They're just trying so hard to protect Joe Biden with the election just 5 days away. All right, so let's get into the election itself here because there's a lot going on there. Over in Virginia, a Frederick County court has blocked the state's Board of Elections from accepting absentee ballots received up to 3 days after Election Day that do not have legible postmarks. Now, the postmarks are going to become an issue, and as I've said many times before on this show, postmarks don't have any mechanism inbuilt into them to prevent fraud. Somebody could take a postmark off a package, turn it into a rubber stamp, and you're ready to rock and roll, faking all kinds of ballots to be submitted after Election Day when they figure out, where Trump is winning and they need to reverse that here. So basically on Wednesday, the circuit court ruled against a plan by the Virginia State Board of Elections that would have allowed non-postmarked or illegibly postmarked absentee ballots to be counted after the November 3 election. So they're trying to basically get this election back to being honest and verifiable and accurate. The Supreme Court, with freshly confirmed Justice Barrett standing in the sidelines, they basically dealt a double blow to Republicans over mail-in ballot cases in 2 states. And the Supreme Court said it will not intervene before the election to stop Pennsylvania officials from receiving mail-in ballots up to 3 days after Election Day, refusing a GOP request the High Court expedite review of the issue. And apparently, the 3 conservative justices indicated the votes ultimately might not be counted and that they would like to revisit the issue after the election. As I understand it, those ballots will be segregated, kept separate from the other ballots, so they're available as a block for whatever the justices decide. Okay, big question. It's uppermost on a lot of people's minds. This is coming from Zero Hedge. And it's a question. How long is it going to take to count all the votes? And we're already being told we may not know the winner of the election right away like we normally do. So if we don't have a winner on November 3rd, when do we get a clear result? Well, this is where I keep saying this election is going to be a replay of 2000, which wound up going all the way to the Supreme Court before they basically awarded the presidency to George Bush, and then went further to say that that decision could not be cited as a precedent in future cases. Now, so far, more than 60 million Americans have already voted by mail. The number keeps growing. Some states are already sending out notices saying if you have not mailed in your mail-in ballot, you're going to have to vote in person because of how slow the post office is handling all of this. Over at Project Veritas, James O'Keefe has another major voter fraud bust. They've released a series of undercover videos from Texas, Bexar County specifically, and they're looking at ballot chaser Raquel Rodriguez. And according to Veritas, Ms. Rodriguez has been responsible for bringing in an estimated 7,000 votes for Joe Biden. Now, if you're not sure what we mean by ballot harvesting, these are people who will knock on the doors of voters, and if they have not filled out their ballots, we'll basically encourage them, go ahead and fill it out in this particular manner. And this, of course, is illegal. And Ms. Rodriguez could wind up going to jail for this. And the dirty work is still continuing over in Wisconsin. The GOP basically reported hackers broke into the party's coffers, meaning the bank account where their funds, their war chest is located, and they stole $2.3 million that was set aside for promoting the re-election of President Donald Trump. So this is getting to be a really, really dirty election. Even more alarming, there is a far left group that's just forming. It's called Shut Down DC, And it's saying they're going to be on the streets of Washington, D.C. before the polls even close, making sure that Donald Trump leaves the White House, even if he wins the election, even if he wins the vote. They're talking about violently just going up to the White House, getting past the Secret Service, good luck with that one, getting past Donald Trump's private security, good luck with that one, and force him from office. So that's how this situation is becoming. And next week is just going to be historic in terms of the craziness here. Okay, as you're already aware, the CEOs of some of the major social media companies have been grilled by Congress over the very obvious anti-conservative bias they are showing in terms of shutting down accounts or blocking posts or tweets. And Twitter's Dorsey, first of all, made a bit of an impression with his wizard beard. He kind of looks like he could be a homeless guy if he wasn't so rich. And basically said that, yes, blocking pro-Trump and conservative tweets was okay. It was a violation of their misinformation policy, but that Holocaust denial is not a violation of misinformation policy. And it seems like a double standard. And Congress really went after him. Ted Cruz tore into Dorsey for still censoring tweets about the Hunter Biden email story. And at one point said, you know, who elected you to be in charge of what the American people can see or read? Okay, now Dorsey admitted they don't really have a formal moderating system. It's basically driven on whoever shows the most outrage. Well, that tells us that all the liberals had to do was set up an office someplace with a phone bank and a bunch of people operating with multiple Twitter accounts to log in and say, you know, that Hunter Biden story is misinformation, it's a Russian plot, and take them down, and Twitter would do that. And Dorsey basically said, we don't have a general policy around misleading information and misinformation. We rely upon people calling that speech out. So he's basically saying that if enough people will call and complain, that they'll pull down a tweet or an account. Now, Twitter is now responding to a new campaign from Israel's Strategic Affairs Ministry targeting online expressions of support for the Palestinian rights. Now, Tuesday, 4IL, a propaganda outlet of the ministry, tweeted the handles of dozens of accounts it claimed were anti-Israel bots and trolls who try and steer public opinion, and the Israeli government said report them right now. So it's, you know, the war for the minds of the American people, or the people of the world, is well and truly underway. And if there's one thing the independent media succeeded in doing over the last 20 years, is how long we've been doing this, we took away the government's ability to lie to you people with impunity, and they miss it. They don't know any other way to run a government other than lies and deception and propaganda. And so they're thrashing around trying to figure some way they can shut this all down so that you'll go back to obediently watching ABC, CNN, NBC, PBS, and so forth and so on, and just believe what you're being told by them. Now, Twitter, along with all of its other evils, appears to be running what amounts to a blackmail operation in which you cooperate with them or you get no traffic. So, for all their talk of being a neutral platform, the big shots at big tech social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Google, are running a protection racket. They figure they can dictate what Americans get to see and read and what other media companies must do to reach the public via those platforms. That is a lot of power. And I noticed in the testimony before Congress, they were all out there saying, well, we're not really having that much of an influence. We can't steer the election. And yet it's very obvious that's exactly what they're trying to do. And they are wielding a huge amount of power. All right, over at the NSA, which stands for no such agency, the National Security Agency, they are stonewalling questions about backdoor encryption in tech products. This has been an ongoing fight for a number of years where people want to have secure communications, and the NSA wants to be able to read all those communications. Now, their excuse is they're looking for terrorist communications. But as we already demonstrated in our NSA challenge, real criminals and real terrorists can evade the NSA and do it quite easily. Certainly anybody who's engaged in nefarious actions knows that open social media and email are all being scanned and monitored anyway. They're going to find other ways to communicate, like steganography. So, according to disclosures by former contractor Edward Snowden, the U.S. National Security Agency has pursued various routes to access tech equipment, sometimes via commercial deals inducing companies to insert backdoor encryption, and in other cases, manipulating standards so firms unknowingly adopt software the agency experts can break. As we mentioned in our software challenge, decoding a message is a two-step process. First, you have to figure out the methodology, then you can break the key. Of the two, the first is the hard part. The Allies were not able to decode the German Enigma code until they actually captured a machine. And then after that, the folks at Bletchley Park were able to build another machine that could hunt for the keys and decode the messages here. So backdoor encryption is being touted by the NSA as essential on the war on terror. Basically, they just want to spy on ordinary law-abiding citizens because the real criminals and terrorists know better than to use the internet and off-the-shelf encryption. Getting on to more current events, boy, I mean, talk about this country just getting pounded. You know, we've Hurricane Zeta, fifth storm to hit New Orleans, has caused a lot of damage because the debris from the earlier storms hadn't been cleaned up yet. At least one person reported dead so far. You've got the Colorado wildfires, which they're hoping the snow that's falling there now is going to tamp that down. And of course, the California wildfires that have been raging due to decades of basically not managing the forests, creating this huge overburden of dead debris, which is just explosively burning. And apparently Pacific Gas and Electric, Southern California Edison, is on the hook this time with accusations that one of their power lines sparked the Silverado wildfire that has displaced 100,000 Californians. A little further north in California, PG&E is accused of allowing equipment to age beyond safe levels. And one of the problems they had was not shutting off power when high winds came along and it blew down some lines and started some fires. Getting to the international news now, Azerbaijan has taken control of settlements in 4 Karabakh districts, this according to Aliyev. And Vladimir Putin earlier discussed the development of Nagorno-Karabakh by phone with Turkish President Erdogan. And the Russian president expressed deep concern over the ongoing hostilities, as well as the increasing involvement of terrorists from the Middle East in the clashes. And as we reported, I think it was just yesterday, the third ceasefire failed after just 1 hour. So each side is pointing fingers at each other. It's possible there's a third party running around the countryside, shooting in both directions just to keep the hostilities going. Now, speaking of Erdogan, he is out there saying that Western countries attacking Islam want to relaunch the Crusades. And he's basically out there saying that diplomatic and legal action will be taken as a response to the caricature of Erdogan that was published by French magazine Charlie Hebdo. After all the problems they've caused before with Mohammed, you'd think, I wonder why they're still in business, to be very honest, because frankly, I didn't find them amusing at all. So Erdogan is out there saying countries want to relaunch the Crusades by attacking Islam. France and Europe as a whole does not deserve this provocation, dirty, hateful, and divisive policy pursued by Macron and those who share his views. Okay, we got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back after these words.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an Energy Cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show here, and a friendly reminder and a not so gentle nudge in the ribs here that Republic Broadcasting Network is in the middle of a perpetual fundraiser. Money is definitely tight, and I realize it is for you as well. It's very hard for us to ask for your support when we know that you're all struggling very hard in these COVID-19 economic times here. But we do have to ask, otherwise we're going to have to start selling our control room technicians for medical experiments. So once again, the mail address, the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity, cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. Getting on back to the international news here, apparently the U.S. is poking at China yet again by declaring that U.S. troops can be sent to defend Japan's Senkaku Islands. These are more of the islands that are currently in dispute in the South China Sea. In this case, it's the East China Sea. And, Japan claims them and China claims them. And basically, Japan's defense minister is saying the situation is intolerable. But we can hear the war drums beating on the horizon. and it's going to get really, really ugly. Now, here is an interesting story, and I think it reveals something about how the corrupted corporate media is working. And apparently over at CNN, there is this very attractive blonde lady named Michelle Kosinski, who apparently managed to have an illicit affair with Britain's most important ambassador, and in the throes of whatever it was they were doing, extracted information out of him about Trump and key decisions the administration was about to make, leading to a number of scoops by CNN. So this is what they call news acquisition. As opposed to like looking on Hunter Biden's laptop where the evidence is just already laid out. Let's talk about the economic news because I know the stock market's up a little bit again today after yesterday's disaster. Supposedly the GDP has taken a major leap upward, but for most Americans, times are still kind of hard. And we're seeing where large corporate landlords are filing eviction notices against 10,000 tenants in 5 states, despite the federal ban on evicting residents impacted by COVID-19 until the end of the year. And we're not necessarily talking about Snidely whiplash here, because remember, those landlords owe money to the banks because they borrowed money to buy those rental properties. And if they're not getting paid their rent, they themselves cannot make the payment on the mortgage, and the bank could foreclose on the rental property. So it's this domino effect that's happening. Now, in a major move, China and Russia and the EU bloc are going to replace international trade in the dollar and euro with their domestic currencies. And this is a major, major event. Because throughout most of the last century, international trade went through the US dollar, from which the US made a small profit, as well as exerted tremendous political control over the rest of the world, such as with sanctions. And you do enough of that, and eventually the rest of the world decides they want to do business some other way. So the Eurasian Economic Union is going to use their own currencies in cross-border trade rather than the euro and the dollar, which currently dominate commerce between the member states and China. So that is going to reduce foreign demand for the US dollar, which is going to put more downward pressure on the dollar, as if there wasn't enough already from the massive overprinting coming out of the Federal Reserve. All right, now the virus pandemic has brought about more flexible work options for employees. Employees are working remotely through 2021, in some cases permanently. Some companies have said, this is working out really good. Just, go ahead and stay at home. They're cutting pay on the theory that you don't need to buy clothes for the office. You don't need to spend gas to get there. I don't think that's fair because, these employees are using their own equipment at home on behalf of the companies. So, but that's another matter entirely. So these companies that are doing this are going to slash office space. And this is going to be a major blow against the commercial real estate markets, all the way down to the local level. Fortune surveyed 171 CEOs between September 23rd to 30 and found 76% of them are expected to reduce office space size in the near term. 28% of them said they would need a lot less corporate space. So the face of the working environment is definitely changing. Another article, this one is coming from Zero Hedge. Creditors are finally waking up to the fact that bond losses are currently as high as 99%. There seems to be a lot of denial going on in the financial sector. Wall Street, they're not recognizing the risk that's out there. Okay, we got to take another break for commercials, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website, by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly,
The new Ease-Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease-Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease-Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease-Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows too. Ease-Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
Is your property a financial burden and causing you grief? Have you tried to sell but can't find buyers? Or are you just too busy to sell your property? Don't worry, we have the right solution for you. We buy properties as is, with cash, close in 30 days, and pay all closing costs. Our service is ideal for property owners who are in pre-foreclosure, have high-end repair costs, experiencing financial hardship, going through costly divorces, are relocating, need cash for retirement, suffering family loss, or have tax liens. Whatever your situation may be, we can help you sell your property and get the money you need. If you own a single-family home or multiple family units, call us for a free consultation at 888-910-1037. That's 888-910-1037. Or visit our website at cachingproperty.com. That's cachingproperty.com. Sell your property fast and leave all your worries behind.
Extend your life with Extendovite, a 7-herb combination made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, hawthorn, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Each herb was chosen for their abilities to help improve irregular heartbeats, chest pain, lower cholesterol, as well as normalize blood pressure and clean and strengthen arteries, plus much, much more. Doctors have taken people off of some or all of their pills just because they believe their patients got better while taking Extendovite. Get the dependability of Extendovite. Just see how you feel in 6 months. A 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid is only $69.95 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
Welcome back to our show here. Getting on back to the economic news. Apparently, a hacker broke into. This is a web portal that lets you invest cryptocurrencies and then try and make a profit from small price variations between the various cryptocurrencies. And it's like currency traders in the real world. It's how it operates. But apparently the hack took place and was immediately confirmed by Harvest Finance to the tune of $24 million. And it's amazing. The NSA claims to be able to track terrorists around the world. They don't seem really able to find the hackers. It just begs the imagination. That if they can read all the traffic in the world and, break into all of our email accounts, that they just can't seem to find the cyber criminals. Apparently, the FBI, the music was cutting out the audio. It was Harvest Finance, a web portal that allows you to invest cryptocurrencies. And it got hacked to the tune of $24 million. Now, the FBI is out there warning that ransomware attacks are starting to attack hospitals. We already know there has, at least in one case, been a death resulting because the doctors couldn't access the patient information. So this is really serious business. But again, our vaunted NSA is not able to track down the ransomware creators. And you just sort of have to wonder, why is it that they are so protected? Of course, one explanation comes to us courtesy of Kaspersky Labs, that identified the Equation Group hackers as actually being part of the NSA. So a little inside, little extra beer money, I guess they're making on the side there. Now, getting back to the economy, we're looking at the stock market hopping all over the place here. And looking at the S&P 500, it turns out that just 5 companies are in charge of all the growth that we have seen recently, 3 of which are Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft. So those are the powerhouses, and the rest of the S&P 500, they're not doing all that well. And let's see, apparently Walgreens is closing their 7th San Francisco store due to looting without consequences. And this is something that's been going on for a while, that Black Lives Matter will go into the Walgreens and they'll loot the place and say, if you call the police or complain, we're going to announce that you're being racist, and that will hurt you with your other customers. And so these Walgreens managers just stand back and let it happen. And it's sort of like the Black Hand or an extortion racket going on. Now, this may be another reason for a global war here. Russia is getting ready to open the world's largest gold mine in Siberia. And apparently Russia's largest gold miner, Polyus, is working on securing total ownership of the Sukhoi Log gold deposit in Siberia, which has an estimated reserve of 540 million tons of ore, which is estimated to contain 40 million troy ounces of gold. I could never understand why we had ounces and troy ounces and why they couldn't just agree on one, but that's a side issue. I digress. So according to the firm, the undeveloped Siberian deposit is the largest in the world. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in the U.S. financial district saying, well, we've got to invade Russia immediately. I mean, look at all that yellow over there. We need that to save our economy here. Okay, now, as you're already aware, there's a lot of tension between Washington, D.C. and Beijing over relations with Taiwan. Technically, officially, the United States is still following the one China policy, but they have started selling arms to Taiwan. Beijing, in retaliation, has slapped sanctions on Raytheon, Lockheed, and Boeing. So everybody is sanctioning everybody, and that's going to lock up the global economy. And maybe that'll encourage us all to go back to self-sufficiency instead of global interdependence. Now, the globalists aren't going to like that idea, but, well, stuff it. What can I tell you? Another area of increasing tension along with the Senkaku Islands here. Apparently, Japan has issued an order to their Navy to shoot any China fishing boats fishing in Japanese waters. And apparently, a lot of Chinese fishing boats have invaded their economic zone, what they define as their economic zone. So this could actually erupt into actual gunfire here. Just everybody shooting at everybody. I don't like it. It's too noisy out there. What can I tell you? Anyway, getting on back to Taiwan, the United States has approved a $2.4 billion with a B dollar coastal defense missile sale to Taiwan. And apparently it will consist of 100 Harpoon coastal defense systems. It is estimated that Taiwan could destroy about half of a Chinese invading force with these new American supplied weapons. Okay, getting on into some other issues here. We've been talking about the academic performance of Americans and how it has been in decline because of the dumbing down of our schools. In the 2020 ACT scores, Asians are pulling even further into the lead. The same is on the SAT test. And again, a lot of people are wondering what's going on. Are our schools failing? Is it Common Core? Probably a combination of all of those. We're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines now. Area code 512 512-248-8252. That's area code 512-248-8252. Okay, now getting on back here. Early season winter storm hits northern U.S., breaking scores of snowfall records. It's looking, at least to this observer, that it's going to be a hard winter compared to last year. They're setting snow and cold records in the upper Midwest right now. There was that ice storm that hit Oklahoma yesterday, I think it was. There is snow falling all over the Rockies, which is a good thing because it's going to help get that Colorado fire underneath control. But getting on back here, apparently there were snowfall records in Montana, Iowa, and Minnesota. 1,100 road accidents due to the heavy snow. Montana got 14 inches of snow through Monday, October 19th, setting a number of records. Now, the Arctic blast, they used to call it the Arctic void or the Arctic vortex. Now they're calling it the Arctic blast here. And it's descended over the western United States. And again, it is setting new records. It brought minus 29 degrees cold to Potomac, Montana, early last Sunday, the coldest temperature ever observed this early in the season across the lower 48. So much for Al Gore and human-caused global warming here. All right, getting on to the world of computers and so forth. Cancel culture has invaded the PlayStation. Sony is enabling the recording of game chats and lets players rat each other out for hate speech. And this is a new degree of wokeness that has led Sony to update its PlayStation system to record the chat and then allow users to snitch on each other for saying things that violate Sony's code of conduct. Now, I don't own a PlayStation. I never have, and now I never will. Okay. Sending a message to our control room here. Google has removed 15 of 21 Android applications from the official Play Store after finding out that adware was in them. And apparently it's a type of adware known as hidden ads. This goes back to last year, and this Android adware operates by showing excessive and intrusive ads and opening mobile browsers on ad-heavy pages. And apparently what it really does is it hides its own app icon so you can't find it to delete it. And then it bombards you with all kinds of advertising. Okay, and one of the downsides of remote working is that it's exposing more and more people to ransomware and hacking. It's making cyber attacks easier to pull off because most home computer systems are not as secure as what you would find in a corporate or office environment. And so the cyber criminals are taking advantage of that. And you do have to take your computer security very, very, very seriously. Okay, we've got a caller on the line, Mark in North Carolina. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mark, I did my part. Well, are you there?
Yeah, you're on the air.
Okay. Yeah. As far as the election go, I did my part today. I voted straight Republican, even though I'm not a Republican. But I'm so disgusted with the Democrats, what they're doing with this mask mandate, what they got in this state, and other things. So I decided I was going to go straight Republican, just right down the line. A couple of things I voted for myself on, where it was not a nominational. I wanted to make a statement. And even though I can't stand Tom Tillis, I voted for him anyway, just to, because I can't stand the Democrats even less. And I voted to get rid of this governor, Cooper, who put the mask mandate on. And I just want to say how silly this whole thing is, too. I just took one of my dogs to the vet earlier today, right? And they have this thing now. You can't even come into the vet's office. You have to stay in your car, and then they call you, and then they'll take the dog in there with you. They look at the dog, and then, call up and tell you what's going on. Okay, which is ridiculous enough. But finally, this girl comes out with the bill, pay the bill.
Yes.
I paid in cash. I'm paying just about everything in cash these days. I don't want to be traced, tracked, contacted, tested, or any of that garbage. And she hands me the bill, and then she just jumps back. I mean, like I scared her or something. Like maybe I had bugs on me or some crap like that. She just jumps back. I said, well, what's the matter with you, right? Well, you're not wearing a mask. I told her. I says, are you that? Do you really believe this nonsense? I know you're wearing a mask. I know you have this silly setup there at the vet in the office. You really believe that? I can't really discuss this with you. Obviously, you do believe it. And I told her, this is a cold. You're worried about a cold. You're a young woman, too. On top of it, you got nothing to worry about. It wouldn't hurt you at all. I tried to explain to her, my friends and all that I know people down in Texas that have got it. And I told you the other day about my friend's mother, 75 years old, with a liver transplant. I also found out something else interesting. I was talking to my friend earlier today. His mother got over it like in 4 days. But you know why? He's been taking heavy-duty vitamins, including a lot of vitamin D and other vitamins like that, since she had that liver transplant, so I guess to nullify the effects of the anti-rejection drugs that she has to take,
Yes.
right? And that's why she got over it in like 4 days. Her husband, my friend's father, is 77, had some heart problems. I think he had to have some surgery, what do you call it, open heart stuff a few years ago. 77 years old, he didn't, but he's also taking all those vitamins, okay? Both of them are taking all those vitamins. I said, you see what I told you, man? You should have been taking those vitamins too, because he's got a little bit more trouble getting over it. He's got some bronchitis. Now he's trying to get rid of before he can go back to work, But this is not, folks, this is not a deadly disease. This is not a pandemic. This is basically a bad cold. You understand that, Dustin? You understand? I hope you call in today, Dustin, because I know the last time you called in, you talked a bunch of nonsense, and now you haven't called in since. At least not since I've been on the phone, since I've been listening. All right? Stop hiding behind your masks. They're not helping you. They're not protecting anybody. Give it up. Stop cooperating. Stop complying with the government's mandates. Tell them no. I see that, by the way, I see in Europe they're rebelling now. I see they had riots in Italy. Okay? And Britain, every week, Britain and Germany are having demonstrations. I think sooner or later that's going to wind up right. And that fool Macron, by the way, between Erdogan,
we're going to have to wait for Black Lives Matter to calm down here before we can riot about something like the face masks.
Yeah. That Erdogan and Macron, they're some pair. They ought to have a show together. Like some Dumb and Dumber.
Yes. But
he is right about Macron. Macron is an idiot. But he's now put a total France on total lockdown. They already had the orange. What was the yellow vest? They're going to have riots there. People are not going to put up with this. And you know what? I think at some point, maybe it will. We talk about militias. When I talk about a militia, by the way, I'm not talking about necessarily uniformed and everything like that. I'm talking about people getting together and saying, no, we're not going to cooperate. And if you push it too far, we'll fight. If you try to take our guns away, we'll fight. Okay? And the FBI will not at that point infiltrate, because the FBI at that point becomes an enemy army. And if they even approach the area, they'll be caught. That's the good thing about, by the way, about a good sheriff, because a good sheriff can basically can deputize the entire county if he wants.
Yes.
That's what you need. Then you got it under the color of law. You got a militia under that color of law then. Okay? But the fact of the matter is, they're going to have, if they keep it up, there will be at some point the guillotines or the hangman's noose or whatever else, because people are not going to put up with that. Okay? People are not going to put up with with a scumbag like Bill Gates constantly, you know, I don't know, pulling it, you know, pushing his weight around because there's billions of dollars. The guy's a little creep. How could anybody take this guy seriously, Mike?
Especially after Windows 10.
Huh?
Especially
Yeah,
after
exactly.
Windows Vista or Millennium Edition.
Yeah, he can't even put computers together properly. Okay? The guy's a little thief. That's all he is. So I just don't understand it, Mike. People wake up. Show you got a pair. Okay? For crying out loud. Don't let these people push us around. Rebel. Okay?
Okay, Mark, I got to let you go. Mark, I'm sorry. I got to let you go. We got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be back with another phone call.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. I was right 30 years ago in warning the world about threatening lab virus outbreaks, AIDS, and Ebola. I was right 20 years ago when FBI Director Robert Mueller made me a suspect in the anthrax mailings because I warned the Bureau before the CIA's biocrime and Cipro sales psyops happened. I was right about COVID-19 being an AIDS-laced mutagen planned to resurge this fall to excuse officials' profitable depopulation globalization agendas. And I was right about the only safeguards being antioxidants and holy spiritual sustenance. Vitamin C, D, zinc, chlorophyll, oxygen, and oxysilver especially transmits the frequency resonance to neutralize the expanded function bioweapon. Oxysilver is a double superconductor of the healing power of love. It is the first nutraceutical invented to amplify prayer power and the faithful, loving intention of your heart. Buy, try, and stockpile Oxysilver through healthyworldstore.com.
The Republic Broadcasting Network late night premiere show of Red Pill Hardcore is hosted by activists that want to hear from you, the listeners. So that you can get involved in the activism, please call in at 800-313-9443 at 10 p.m. to enter the discussion. To book your slot as a guest, call our studio at 202-657-5715 or contact RBN staff. Remember, keep it real and take the red pill.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just scratch yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
Welcome back to our show here. And I actually got an email from somebody who has changed their early mail-in vote. And it turns out that the process was extremely simple. And as a matter of fact, their email is in the letter section at whatreallyhappened.com. We're going to go back to the phones now to Layla in Canada. Hello, Layla. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Yes, Mike, earlier in the show, you talked about companies saying that they were going to make remote work from home a permanent condition for their employees. I see a lot of advantages in that. I know you said that it's not fair that their salaries were being cut back, but they can now deduct a portion of their home expenses for office space, either as a deduction or a credit. I don't know how it works in the U.S. tax system.
Here in the United States, it has to have a separate entrance.
Well, a lot of places do have, 2 or 3 different entrances to their homes. So that may be a possibility, or it may even be affordable to put one up. It creates jobs for renovators, but they can deduct things like equipment, paper, computers, and all that sort of thing, as well as their internet expenses. But that takes us to the other issue. And then, by the way, if there's a lot of open office space, then you have readily convertible structures that can be turned into residential houses. Residential units, and a lot of the homeless can then find a roof over their head. So there are the possibility. Again, it depends on the ethics with which everything is handled. But
well,
then
there's also zoning
the
issues.
area of zoning, exactly. But all of those things can be done. They can be changed, especially when the need is self-evident and not easily disputed. But then that gets us to the problem of, it also saves on transportation costs. But anyway, then how are we going to manage the system that is used for remote work and remote communication, either within a nation or internationally? How is that going to be controlled? It's got to be taken out of the hands of the very few, like the Bill Gates, the Zuckerbergers, the Twitter types. Although it's got to be taken out of their hands. Now, how can we do it so that it's fair for the majority of people, and access to the internet or the World Wide Web is going to be accessible to everybody and equally accessible? And perhaps that's something that needs to be addressed. And
I would agree. I mean, it certainly justifies an infrastructure investment. I mean, other countries actually have faster internet at the consumer level than we do here in the United States of America, which is kind of amazing when you consider that the internet was invented by DARPA in this country.
Yes, and it's hilarious. 15 years ago, I was at a party and somebody from Africa was telling me how ridiculously outdated our telephone, wireless, cell phone, and internet systems were compared to what they had even in Africa. I was astonished to hear what he told me.
Okay,
so
Layla.
Someone who was Yes.
Yeah, stay on the line. I'm going to put you on hold. We got to take a break for station identification. I'm going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsors.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed the newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
The newspaper? Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, a majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper does not give out the important attention on what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, area code 512-248-8252. We're talking with Layla in Canada. And Layla, if you could just sort of pick up where you left off, thank you.
Yes, the convenience and the logic, really, the economic logic of having people working remotely from home is, I think, far outweighs any of the disadvantages. There are going to be obstacles, but I think they can all be easily overcome. But the most important thing is that everybody has to have equal access to this means of communication with one another globally. And that means the internet. And it's got to be taken out of the hands of the few that now control it and also control the traffic, i.e. the information that comes over what is considered the worldwide internet. So how is it going to be done? Now, the previous caller was saying, enough already, it's time for us to rebel. Well, I mistakenly, very carelessly used the word militia in a previous conversation, I think earlier in the week or last week, because it's loaded with very negative connotations. What I should have been saying is, yes, we need to rebel, but it has to be done out in the open, so no one needs to worry about doing anything surreptitiously and being spied on and having false reports made against individuals. This is still a country where the freedom of assembly and the freedom of thought and the exchange of ideas is still legal. And we've got to fight to keep that before something happens to make it illegal. Mm-hmm. And so it really is time, no matter who wins this coming election, even if Trump wins, there's going to be a lot of areas where Trump is already compromised and he's still paying off debts to those who got him to where he is. So we can't completely rely on him to do the things that we want. For example, just his giving clemency to Roger Stone and not giving the due consideration to Julian Assange makes me wonder about what is Trump thinking? I mean, Roger Stone is a man of questionable ethics. So we have to hold whoever is elected, we've got to hold them accountable and remind them that they do have to work for the majority of the people. Now, how is that going to be done? It's got to be started, and it's got to be done openly. And I mean, I don't have the expertise, the contacts, the knowledge, but people can. And actually, this is where RBN, I think, is an exceptional organization. I've been listening to more of your radio shows, and I think all of your people are really excellent hosts, and they are very reasonable in the way they discuss the issues. But the question is, how do we go about forming, and I think it has to be continental, Canada and the U.S. It's got to be the people who get together and start demanding that our governments work for us. And that the first thing they have to do is cut their size and cut their salaries. And then they have to start serving the interests of the people that they were supposed to be serving. We've allowed them to get away for too long with enriching themselves and making themselves inaccessible and unaccountable. How all of that is overturned and we resort to what the original ideals were, I don't know how, but there are a lot of people calling into your show that are.
It's going to take a restart here. I mean, when this country was originally set up, there were serious limits on how much you could support a political candidate. And the idea was to sort of balance the influence of the super wealthy with those of the general public. And so that the size of a candidate's war chest was a true reflection of their public support. Unfortunately, over time, the money power has eroded away those safeguards. And our government is now the best government that money can buy. And unfortunately, the wrong people have got all the money.
Yes. Well, the other problem, of course, is that, I mean, it's more than just money, those who control the money also don't just invest in one party. It's like when they talked about the globalists, or I hate to use the word again, the money bankers, and we all know who I'm talking about. I just want to avoid the use of the word, but they always invested put money into both sides.
Of course.
They instigate war. So we have to acknowledge and not be afraid of using words and terminology. We cannot have words and ideas criminalized. That is probably the most egregious abuse of the human right, to be able to express oneself legally and fairly, to challenge the existing structure in order to make it more productive for everybody. So we have to have a rebellion of sorts, but it's got to be done peacefully. And as you use the imagery of the keyboard, that is a very good imagery. It is probably the most powerful weapon. The days of the pen being mightier than the sword is gone, but the keyboard now replaces it. But the one thing we have to do is not lose the power of dialogue. We've seen words. Words have been a form of expressing thoughts and ideas, and more they're restricting the ability to think by limiting the amount of words that are legal to use, or that are even being taught to the children in educational systems. So how it's done, I don't know, but there has to be some kind of public medium, or more than one, many media, that become a place for us to reach out to one another and start demanding that access to things like the internet cannot be restricted. It cannot be criminalized if it's used in legal ways. And we have got to be able to expand our verbiage, our words, our language. Words cannot be taken away from us anymore, because they express the ideas, and the limiting of words limits our ideas and limits the capacity of our brains. And we've also
right out of Orwell.
Refuse certain things. Right out of exactly. I mean, whether he knew that it was being planned or whether they used his book as a blueprint, it's hard to say. No one really knows. Everything is pure conjecture. But there does have to be a rebellion, but it's got to be kept peaceful, because whenever violence occurs, it's always the weakest that suffer the most.
Agreed. We're seeing that in places like Philadelphia.
Yeah. Yes, and it's going to happen all over the world. It's almost as if when you talked about something being historical, I almost thought you were going to say hysterical, because hysteria is almost a contagious thing.
Yes.
If once violence erupts, there's no way to control it. To use the silly imagery of the snowball going down the hill, you can't stop it after a certain point. It just gets bigger and bigger. And so violence, something that cannot be controlled, must not be allowed to even start. That has got to be kept under control. But
unfortunately, for the most part, the only way to stop violence is with more violence, and that's when people really start getting hurt. And I have devoted myself over the last 20 some odd years of doing what I do to avoid a civil war and violence in the streets. Unfortunately, recent events have shown I have not been entirely successful about that, obviously. But again, we're seeing in like Portland and Philadelphia, it really is getting out of control, and it's being unfortunately encouraged for political gain.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think it's even possible for human beings to live peacefully with one another? Is it so deeply embedded in our own human, well, call it our genome or our own DNA? Is it possible for us to live with one another peacefully?
Yeah, I think it really is. The problem is that you get these sociopaths who assume positions of leadership, who get these grandiose dreams of empire, who like to start wars so that they can walk into somebody else's territory and steal their wealth, and consider themselves great for the accomplishment.
Yeah, and names come to mind.
Yes, several.
Yeah, several names. Unfortunately, most of the leaders of most of the countries of the world right now, it's very frightening.
Very
But
much so.
anyway, uh, I think I said enough for today, and I just hope that I hope that once the election is over, that people do not let themselves yield to their anger and violence. So,
Well, I certainly hope you're.
Mike, thank
I certainly hope you're right, because right now the two opposing camps are sort of being held in check by each relative belief that they are going to prevail next Tuesday. And I think once the election is underway and the results have come in enough to indicate who the winner is actually going to be. Obviously, half the population is going to be very, very upset. It may well be the half of the population that seems already predisposed to violence. We know that there's massive election fraud out there. They're going to be working to try and reverse the results of the election, and that's going to get the other side very, very angry as well. So I think we're in for a very, very dark time in the near future.
That's the trouble. And what's been happening with the BLM and the Antifa and the women with their silly hats right after Trump was elected, all of that violence has been priming the pump to prepare us for violence to be the normal outcome, and therefore get ready for it and be ready to combat them. And you know, can we sit on our hands and resist being goaded into becoming prey or becoming predators? That's the thing we have to ask ourselves. What are we? Anyway, once again,
well, I'm sort of neither of the above here. I'm neither a predator, and I certainly don't intend to be prey.
That's the problem, though. If there are predators out there, how do we avoid becoming prey unless we also resist?
Tastes terrible.
And resistance means, it's anyway. Let's just hope for the best. Let's just pray that if only there were a God that would intervene.
If only. You know, this is not quality work we expect from a supreme deity.
No, it's not. And I don't want to offend anyone in their beliefs, but all I can say is, coming from a heritage where supposedly the belief in a monotheistic, benevolent God was created, the last thing that my mother said before she died, and I said to her, when you see God and our relatives, you know, I just remember her words were, "I hope so." She was a very pragmatic, rational woman, and all she said was, her last words were, even in death, she did not want to yield to the folly of believing. All she said was, "I hope so," because she didn't want to hurt me.
Yeah.
But so we have to rely on ourselves and our own sanity.
Yeah. Well, what little we have left of it. All right. Well, listen, Layla, I'm going to let you go here because the phone lines are loading up here, and we're going to switch over to Al in Canada. Hello, Al. Welcome back to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Mike. She's a fascinating woman, isn't she?
Yes, she is.
Layla. Yeah. She mentioned something about working from home, and then, you know, you'd have all this empty office space and turn it into, I guess, a housing. I would assume low-income housing. That'll never happen.
No.
So it's always about the almighty dollar. I mean, the housing prices up here in Canada, we never crashed, Mike, you know, in 2009. The housing prices up here are just ridiculous. It is absolutely insane. Mike, if I were to move upstairs, same apartment, just one floor up, it would cost 42% more a month.
That's pretty insane.
And I've only been here about 14 years, right?
Yeah.
That's how far away we've gone. So, you know, and another thing, I mean, the cash. I mean, like, cash is speech. That's how the rich got away with it.
Yes.
The bigger the cash, the bigger the speech. We have nothing. They're censoring us, and they continue to censor us, and they admit it. They admitted it full on.
Yes, they did.
House Senate committee.
Yes, they did. But my opinion is, if Citizens United says the First Amendment applies to corporations, then the First Amendment has to apply to corporations.
Well, Apparently, corporations are people.
That's what Citizens United decision said. And, but they want it, two ways. They want to be protected by the First Amendment for their political speeching, but they don't want to be constrained to protect the political speech of anybody else using their services.
Yep. When I was in grade 2, it was called "You Want Your Cake and You Want to Eat It Too."
Yes.
They've never grown up. These
They have no
psychopaths
reason
that run
to.
these corporations, right? Dorsey,
Yep.
look at him.
Yep.
Grow up, dude.
He looks like he came right out of Lord of the Rings.
He might even think that.
Yes.
I mean, who knows? Maybe he just came from a 48-hour gaming, like a gaming stint, right? I don't know. I mean, God only knows. I mean, this guy could have a room that you walk into and it's like, holy crap. It'd be, these gamers' wet dreams.
Yes.
The sky's the limit, right? Anyway.
Yes.
That's pretty much all I had to say. Mark, geez, man. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Why can't people understand that? You shouldn't be attacking everybody for things that they say. I mean, try and find a common ground and build on it. That's the only way forward. We're not going to get anywhere by fighting each other. It's being proved right now in the United States.
Yes, absolutely.
You guys are going backwards, right? Yeah.
Yes.
You're going so far back. You're going back into the 1800s, around this 1860s, in my opinion, in that area.
And we know what happened in the 1860s.
Well, there was a lot of civil unrest. It was called a war.
There was a civil war.
Yeah. All these upstarts started thinking they could get this and get that, right? And the sheep all fell for it, and they're falling for it now. This is not organic, what's going on in the world. This is not organic whatsoever.
No, it's being incited.
Planned. Oh, yeah, big time. Mike, this has been planned for over a century. There are articles right on your website pointing right to this fact. They've been trying to do this forever. The United States falls, they get Russia to fall, boom, one world.
Yes.
They got it, right? And they're close, but, there's still hope. Anyway, I appreciate your time, Mike. You have a good show. I'm going to listen. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much there. I'm opposed to the idea of a one world government for a multitude of reasons, but one that I'll share with you right now is, just look at how corrupt our national government has become, and then imagine that elevated to the place of a global superpower. It is the curse of political power. It attracts the very people who should never be allowed to have it. So we're going to go back to the phone lines now to Tony in Virginia. Hello, Tony. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. And I regret to do this. I normally listen to the show in the archives and can't catch it live or call in. And I'm not trying to stir up trouble here and everything, but I really do want to call out Paul in New Jersey because I think he's insincere. And I don't think he leans right and I've heard him call in over at Renegade, and it seems to me that he just calls in anywhere where people are prone to vote right or lean right and to discourage them. And yet he says he's to the right. And I like on yesterday's show, he says that, he had more respect for Antifa than Trump voters because at least they know they're socialists. Well, I would just have more respect for Paul if he would just call in and say, look, he wants a Biden victory and try to persuade us of why that should be instead of constantly railing on Trump. Now, many of the criticism he says are correct, but he doesn't balance that with how we would be better off. And he pushes the third party and this type of thing ad hominem. And so that's my opinion of him. And I just feel like I have to counter that for listeners that get down or discouraged or whatever. And we're not Trump fans over here, right? I could see if everybody was putting all their hope and faith in Trump and he was going to solve all the problems and he came to correct that to get us off of that, then I could see his motivation. But that's not the case here or on other platforms that he's talking.
Okay, Tony.
Tony? Yes, sir.
Tony, sorry to interrupt. Stay on the line. I'm going to put you on hold. We're going to come right back to you after these words from my sponsor.
would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new Ease Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows too. Ease Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
Welcome back to our show. Here we're talking with Tony in Virginia. And Tony, I think the people who are pushing the Constitution Party are doing so in the hope that it's going to draw voters away from Donald Trump because, you know, we're all conservatives. Some of us, like yours truly, we're paleo-conservatives. And the idea of a party that wants to be an originalist Constitution Party is somewhat attractive. And so I think the Constitution Party's real goal is to divide the GOP vote, at least to some extent.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. And another point I would like to make also, because I really don't like doing this, because for one thing, when I argue with people, you know, I may be wrong. If I get new information, I reserve the right to change my mind. And I want to leave that option for other people. I don't want to box them in. And like Dustin, for example, I'll be the first to say I'm not particularly a fan of Dustin, but I do believe that he's sincere in his belief in the mask and everything like that. And I disagree with him, but I don't want to see him get beat down like that and everything. I think he's sincere in it. And I think, you know, we should give people the option to, you know, that's just my feeling on that. That's why I'm even like doing this type of thing. And I like your platform and everything, and the fact that you even allow people to criticize you. And it's an awesome, I really have the utmost respect for you in this network. And like I say, that's why I really don't like doing this. But I think he's just totally dishonest, and he wants a Biden victory. I would have more respect for him if he would just try to convince us why he thinks that would be better. But I could be wrong, and maybe I went over the line with that. But anyway, and I love Layla, and just because of her unique perspective, I love a lot of the call. I even love Tom, man. He gets because I'm a lot like Tom, so I better control myself. Anyway, thank you so much for your time, Rivero.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call. And yeah, we've had more than a few people call into this program who will start out saying, well, I'm going to vote for Trump, but followed by 10 to 15 minutes of reasons not to vote for Trump. And to me, it's a little bit obvious. As you say, if they're really thinking Trump is bad, tell us why Biden is good. And I'm not saying that Trump is necessarily good. Once again, we're facing a choice between the lesser of two evils. And Trump has been a bit of a disappointment. After 2016, he turned his back on the independent media. And we worked very, very hard to keep Hillary out of that Oval Office. He's basically allowed the net neutrality fiasco to move forward. And up until very, very recently, nothing was being done about the overly liberal bias that we're seeing on social media. But Biden is definitely going to be a lot worse. Let's go back to the phones here to Bruce in Texas. Hello, Bruce. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, hello, Mike. I just want to second that caller from Virginia's comments on the Constitution Party shills. I hear them too across a bunch of almost every show I hear that takes callers has these people doing this. So I don't think it's a coincidence. Do you recall 1992 when Ross Perot ran?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And I was all in on that. He inspired me. And then he had the Reform Party. I joined that. And, what did that do? And, it got Bill Clinton 2 terms.
Yes.
Yeah, so exactly right. I want everyone just to keep that in mind. I don't think that, I used to bash Trump, but now that the stakes are so high and the opposition is so ugly and so corrupt, I mean, it's literally a crime family when we talk about the Biden. So I'm behind Trump 100% right now. And I have no excuse. I have no regrets for that, considering the opposition. 1% can throw the election, That's point number one. Point number two is Layla and their pacifist arguments. Do you recall what Mao Zedong said about political power?
Yes.
Yes. Political power
came out of the barrel of a gun.
A barrel of a gun. Do you recall what Alexander Solzhenitsyn said about his experiences in the Gulag?
Well, before we get to Alexander Solzhenitsyn, you have to remember Mao Zedong made that comment about political power coming from the barrel of a gun before the advent of mass media and certainly before the internet. And I think the infosphere, if you will, has evolved to the point where I'm hoping guns are no longer necessary. Anyway, tell us about Alexander Solzhenitsyn.
He talked about, I don't have the exact passage in front of me, but he talked about when they went into the gulags and when the Bolsheviks were going door to door arresting dissidents and murdering them, that they wish they had fought back. They wish they had kept their weapons, and they wish they had fought back when they came down the hall to knock on doors. Now, I'm not arguing in favor of a lone wolf scenario. That plays right into the media hands. It doesn't accomplish anything. But
yes.
And I've excused Layla in the past because her heart is true, I believe. But when she talks about, I hope a militia doesn't form. Well, what do you think Hezbollah is? And where would Lebanon be without Hezbollah? Where would Afghanistan, the people who live there, they would be totally demolished if they didn't have armed opposition fighting the Zionist forces occupying that nation over a false flag.
Okay, Bruce. Stay on the line.
Let me finish, and then I'm going to hang up.
I'm going to let you finish, but I got to put you on hold for a commercial break. But don't hang up. I'm going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsors.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
your life with Extendovite.
Extendovite really works. Here are some reviews from Amazon.com. Amazon customer, 5 out of 5 stars. I'm quite happy about it. This product has relieved what appears to be an angina problem, pain in the chest after climbing stairs, and short on breath. I'm quite happy about it. Dr. Sam Surreal. Good product and ingredients. Kept my blood pressure normal after mild heart attack in 2015. Switched to plant-based diet also to reverse atherosclerosis. John Bispicos, 5 out of 5 stars. Built up my immune system. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an Energy Cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, keep it today.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did.
Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Bruce in Texas. And Bruce, you wanted to complete your thought. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just about said everything I wanted to say. You know, this is a man's game. That's traditionally what it's been. And so I think, the time may come. I'm not calling for it now, but, we're going to have to man up. I'm not going to be taken into a damn gulag or some kind of re-education camp or something like that. Or they come knocking on my door for guns. I got to take someone out with me because I'm going up on my feet, not on my damn knees. That's all I have to say.
All right. Well, before you go here, I found that quote you were talking about from Alexander Solzhenitsyn. It's from the Gulag Archipelago. And it goes, pardon me, quote, "And how we burned in the camps later thinking, what would things have been like if every security operative, when he went out at night to make an arrest, had been uncertain whether he would return alive and had to say goodbye to his family? Or if during periods of mass arrests, as for example in Leningrad, when they arrested a quarter of the entire city, people had not simply sat there in their lairs, paling with terror at every bang of the downstairs door and at every step on the staircase, but had understood they had nothing left to lose and had boldly set up in the downstairs hall an ambush of half a dozen people with axes, hammers, pokers, or whatever else was at hand. The organs would very quickly have suffered a shortage of officers and transport, and notwithstanding all of Stalin's thirst, the cursed machine would have ground to a halt. If we didn't love freedom enough, and even more, we had no awareness of the real situation, we purely and simply deserved everything that happened afterwards.
Yeah, beautifully read there, Michael. I'll let you go with that. Thank you.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over here to Jim in New York. Hello, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, how are you, Mike? I haven't spoken to you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, I've been working. I get home late a lot of times. But anyway, everyone's all riled up about this election.
Yes, they
I've
should
heard
be.
this. Yeah, I've heard this anti-third party argument forever. But remember, 2,000 people who voted for Pat Buchanan on the Reform Party, they were
Yes.
demonized. They were demonized by Bush voters.
Yes.
How did that turn out?
It turned out in the Supreme Court. And I'm not opposed to a third party, but third parties and third party candidates can be used to sway elections in favor of one of the two so-called traditional parties. Remember, when this country started, it wasn't a two-party system. There were all kinds of parties all over the place. There was the Moose Party and the Whig Party and the early Republicans and so forth. But the two-party system evolved to make it less expensive for the ultra-rich to bypass the will of the voters by only having two candidates to donate to.
Yes. To me, and you said this a couple months ago, vote your conscience.
Yes.
Vote your conscience. And, I respect Trump voters. I respect any voter. I know a couple Biden supporters at work. They're nice people. They're good people. They're misguided.
Yes.
They're good people. But I'm not even sure these elections are on the up and up. You look at 2008 and 2012, how they robbed Ron Paul in the primaries.
Yes.
In the caucuses that you can't fix with electronic voting, he won by 70%. In the primaries, where there was no paper ballots and it was, voter counted, he only got 10, 15%. So that anomaly right there makes me question whether these
This
elections.
nation has had a problem with election fraud going back, a long time, all the way to John F. Kennedy. And what I consider Trump's biggest single failing is he came into office promising to clean up our joke of an election system so that the American people could have confidence that their vote really mattered. And he dropped the ball. And it may cost him next Tuesday.
Well, we'll see. But did you ever see the documentary about 10 years ago, Hacking Democracy?
Oh, absolutely. That's something everybody should be seeing. And I'll track it down and put it up at the front page of whatreallyhappened.com. It was amazing, especially that scene at the end where they walk into where the voting machines are stored for this particular voting district, and they pick one at random. They hold a phony election on it and then show how easy it was to flip the results of the election. And some of those election workers literally broke down in tears because they really thought they supported a system that was honest and fair and accurate. And they didn't realize that these machines are set up to be retroactively altered. And again, for those of you who have not been there, you should visit a website called blackboxvoting.org. And as a matter of fact, the lady who runs that was featured quite a bit in that HBO documentary, Hacking Democracy. So you may want to take a look at that.
Yes. But I don't like this people bashing third party.
No,
Vote your conscience. I respect any voter, no matter who they vote. And I don't like another thing. I heard Chance made a good call last week. I don't like people uh, loosely calling people trolls and shills, or just because they have a different opinion that makes you a troll.
No, having a different opinion just means you have a different opinion. But there are certain patterns that planted callers follow, by which it becomes very obvious that they have an agenda that is directly opposite what they claim. And it's all a part manipulation. And you need to understand there are public relations firms where this is their business. Is to have their people call into shows like this one and try and push a particular agenda. And that's why I keep saying the most obvious ones are the ones who call in and say, well, I'm going to vote for Trump, but followed by several reasons not to vote for Trump. To me, that's a little bit obvious. If you're going to go vote for Trump, tell us why you think Trump should be elected. If you really want to bash Trump and push people toward Biden, tell us why Biden should be elected. Unfortunately, there's really not a lot recommending Joe Biden, especially as he continues to melt down in front of the microphones.
Yes, but it's very hard to prove that someone's a troll or whether they just have a different opinion. You know what I mean? It's kind of unfair with some people just saying, "Oh, he's not voting for Trump. He's a troll."
Well, I'm not naming specific names, obviously, and some of the callers, unfortunately, they are, and I wish they wouldn't do that. I'm trying to provide a general education of how propagandists try and exploit open phone lines and open chat boards. And it is a monster operation because the war for the minds of America has shifted away from the traditional media, ABC, CBS, NBC, and it's right here in the independent media and independent radio. And they're trying to get it back under control, and they're not really having a lot of success.
Just one more point.
Sure.
Dave in Maryland, he called a few weeks ago.
Okay.
He said he thinks that they already have the winner chosen, and they
got that in 2016.
Yeah, and here's a possibility too. Remember, Netanyahu loves Trump.
Yes.
What about the possibility of certain powers fixing the election for Trump? If we know Israel likes Trump, what about that possibility? Just
it's certainly possible, but so far all of the election fraud that's being exposed seems to be on the Democratic side. Games with the ballots here, ballot harvesting, that latest Project Veritas expose, and all the games that are being played with ballots, the phony driver's licenses to let illegal immigrants vote. It's a massive, massive operation. And frankly, from where I sit, it doesn't really matter who wins. I think this election is illegitimate because of all the fraud that's taken place. And again, I fault Donald Trump for not using his time in office to clean up this mess. And yes, he ran into tremendous opposition from the heads of the state voting boards. They were screaming states' rights and everything. But then he just dumped it on the Department of Homeland Security, who basically didn't really do much of anything other than talk about computer security for the election system.
Yes. Well, I'll let you go, but just want everyone relax. It's the election. It's only in a few days.
Yes.
Try not to attack each other personally. It's just an election. And like I said, look how Ron Paul was robbed by as much as 50%. So these elections can be rigged and hacking democracy. I suggest everyone see it. On that note, have a great day, Michael.
All right, thanks an awful lot. And if you're more of a literary bent, you might hunt down a book called Vote Scam. It was written by the Collier brothers back during the Clinton years. Back to the phones here to Charles in St. Petersburg. Hello, Charles. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
No, this is Lauren from Ohio.
Oh, okay. Lauren from Ohio. Then what is on your mind?
Well, wow, a lot. I tell you what, I've been taking notes, but I'm not going to be able to get through all this. But here's the thing. I'm looking at how people are treating each other on the show and the kind of picking at each other.
Yeah.
If you look at how we took this land from the Indians, it was because they were in a bunch of different tribes. They weren't together. Let's keep our nation free and defend from these white people coming over here. They just were fighting each other. And then they were tools of the British. You know, my ancestry is kind of weird. So I've seen some interesting things. But my point is, if we can just focus, if we can unite in truth, uphold and defend the Constitution and the purpose in the Declaration of Independence for that Constitution, to uphold, all men to uphold and defend the right. Oh, shoot, my gosh. I'm trying to read notes and talk about the Constitution at the same time off the top of my head. But the Declaration of Independence says the purpose of governments are instituted among men to defend these rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And what we have, instead of having God made the men, and if you don't believe in God, fine, but you know another man didn't make you. The men made a club. The club's purpose is to limit the maids and the butlers. Article 1, Section 8 and 9 specifically say the purpose and what they can do and cannot do. And we've forgotten that. We've let them take our children into these schools, dumb them down, deliberatedumbingdown.com. That's Charlotte Iserby. So it's not an accident. And we did this to ourselves. We've got to stop blaming Trump or blaming the Democrats or blaming we can blame all we want. But in the end, power comes from truth. Trump, truth, facts trump feelings. And our kids have been trained for a couple of generations now. Oh, we feel so deeply. We can't use words. If I say that your brain damaged children are retarded, it means slow. That's what to retard means. If you retard the growth. So there are definitions to words that are necessary for us to understand and communicate thoroughly the intricacies of an idea. And that's what 1984 was about. You can have a feeling, but you wouldn't even have the words to express yourself. So that's what the dumbing down the kids, that's what the whole language, instead of teaching them phonics and they can read anything. No, we're going to whole language them. And then they're basically at fourth grade, that's the max. That's why your newspapers are at a fourth grade level. You can only memorize so many words. It's about 5,000. And I ran for state school board. I homeschooled my children. Because my mother was a teacher, my mother-in-law was a teacher, my grandmother was a teacher. Now I'm a teacher, but I'm a different kind of teacher. I set a globe in front of them. Every country, learn where it is, borders, north, south, east, west, and every body of water in it. Where's the capital? What do the people there do for a living? Like what are their industries? And what is their religion? How safe is it to be there? That's a simple thing. Joel Skousen's a relocation book. That's a great little book. It's wonderful. It's very detailed maps. Kids want the information. They're just doing what their mom and dad tell them. Their mom and dad tell them go to school, and the school then dumbs them down. And so, it's not the children's fault. And I'm talking about children grown into adults. I was one of them. I was in Mrs. Bean's class when they said, no grades. We don't need grades. It was a hippie time, buddy. And I didn't learn nothing. I almost didn't make it into my private school. And my sister and brother were in there. I was so dumb, they almost didn't let me in, but I was black and they needed black kids and my dad could pay. So I managed to get in and get an education. So what I'm saying to people is the information you want, just for the masks, instead of going back and forth, show after show after show, because I'm sorry, it is a little monotonous. Dr. Judy Mikovits, she wrote a book, The Case Against Masks. Now, Dr. Judy Mikovits, you know who she is, right? With Dr.
Yes, I've heard the name.
He had her gagged, bankrupted, jailed, just harassed the heck out of this woman. Why? Because she brought out an article on the 8th of October, 2009 in Science Magazine discussing this new family of retroviruses that they had isolated that was the cause of multiple diseases. Well, that's that paper that I keep trying to tell people, Mycoplasma, the Linking Pathogen in Neurosystemic Diseases by Professor Don Scott. And if you look at the first page, it lists basically every chronic degenerative disease and the root of it being this mycoplasma. Well, now this new COVID, what's on it? It's like a mycoplasma jacket. That's the AIDS plus Ebola and SARS and MERS. And who's saying these things? Well, Dr. Sherry Rogers, 4 board specialties, medical doctor with 4 board specialties. And she's telling you this is a bioweapon and the defense is nutrition. And Anthony Fauci finally came and told you, hey, take some vitamin C and vitamin D, and some zinc, Finally, he tells you after all these people are dead. So what I'm trying to get people to understand is you can't keep reacting to whatever it is they put in front of you. You can't keep waiting for some politician you voted one time in 2 years, and this is the extent of your participation in your life. You've got pedophiles and Satanists running this government and nothing being done about it. Those phone lines should be burning up. Burning up. And the other thing is, it's your own damn fault. My answer to this, obey God. And you don't have to be a Christian, but the 10 Commandments, come on now. Don't kill people. Don't steal. Don't covet their stuff. Don't lie about them. Don't bear false witnesses. That's a
That's a good set of rules. It's a good set of rules. Anyway, Lauren, I got to let you go. We got to take another break for commercials. We're going to be back with the last segment of our program after these two words.
Hey gang, Patrick Slattery here with an important message that is pertinent to anyone who shops for groceries, eats food, or just has an inquisitive mind like myself. What I'm about to introduce you to is a segment of our food culture that has been kept so low profile to the American public that virtually no one is aware of how dominant it is on our refrigerator and cupboard shelves. What I'm talking about is the kosher certification industry and a new app, Koshertified, that delivers a comprehensive education on all aspects regarding this little-known practice. After reviewing this app, I found that it is useful for practically anyone who purchases food, regardless of their religious faith or identity. Its database of products not kosher certified is a win-win convenience for all food-conscious people. So why not check out the kosherquestion.com or click on the link at nationalbugle.com and see how modifying your grocery shopping with the Koshertified app can make a huge difference for your future.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Extendovite really works. Here are some reviews from Amazon.com. John Hess, 5 out of 5 stars. Awesome. Probably my only review, but at age 40, I was getting bad heartthrob and left arm pain, mainly before bed. I even stopped smoking and drinking sodas for a month, and that didn't work. After one day of taking Extendovite, it was gone and hasn't returned in 3 years. I've ordered Extendovite 13 times, so Amazon just said. Juliet Hordick. I've ordered this product before in liquid form. It is fantastic. My whole family's been on it. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The Republic Broadcasting Network late night premiere show of Red Pill Hardcore is hosted by activists that want to hear from you, the listeners. So that you can get involved in the activism, please call in at 800-313-9443 at 10 p.m. to enter the discussion. To book yourself as a guest, call our studio at 202-657-5715 or contact RBN staff. Remember, keep it real and take the red pill.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show. Last segment of the program today. We're going to go back to the phones here to John in California. Hello, John. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, hi, Michael. I've been gone the last couple of weeks. What I could listen to, and I was traveling back on Amtrak Tuesday and yesterday, and I just want to try to organize myself. I'll get through this. That was a wonderful call from Layla and her family. What they went through. That was really something good to hear about. And then David from Boston, that rant he did. I was really surprised to hear that about Trump. What he said about him. I couldn't believe that, but would have told him. I said, well, Sheldon Adelson, he's the big kingpin in the Jews and the casino magnate. He gives money to Trump. Would you, but they keep him in the loop, but they don't say anything about him, knowing that he's a big kingmaker, so they won't talk to him in the media or criticize him or attack
Well,
him. Or
Sheldon
anything.
Adelson is having to sell off some of his casinos now, so things aren't quite as
Really
rosy as they used to be.
Yeah. Well, the last thing, you mentioned that I was going to, but the Collier Brothers book, people read that about vote scam. That really tells them when they did that video in Miami, got as much as they could, but they had to kick them out. That was a great thing to read, telling what's going on. The last thing I will say about the election in 2016 and this one and the one in 2016, it's about the same. The only difference is I think more people are afraid and fearful because of the Antifa Black Lives Matter violence. Other than that, it sounds both the same thing. And I think the intelligence communities are part of the problem. Either they infiltrated them, egging them all on. If they weren't, if this was the right, the other side, the conservatives, they'd be on them. They'd be gone, arrested, killed off. But, that's the problem. They are perpetuating all this going. And with that, Michael, thank you for all your patience with the people. I know it's tough with a station when you're not next to Mike in the control room who can tell you this, or you can tell them back, and you can cut people off. But no, you're very good with them, and thank you very much for what you're doing. Keep it on, keep it on.
Well, thank you very much. We do have a little text window that communicates with our control room, which is how I know what callers are waiting on what line. And speaking of that, we're going to switch over to David in Boston. Hello, David. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, aloha, Michael. Hey, I was going to just kick back and listen today, Mike, but I was constrained to call in defense of Paul in New Jersey. Michael, he takes a lot of flack because he doesn't out support Trump, even though he says he's going to vote for Trump. But this is how I have Paul sized up, Mike. I think Paul is a man who understands that our U.S. Constitution, which is the law of the land, as personified by Uncle Sam, okay? Paul understands that Uncle Sam is being strangled to death, and that it takes two hands to throttle Uncle Sam. It takes a left hand and a right hand to choke Uncle Sam to death. And I think Paul understands that. And they talk about the Biden crime family, Mike. But hey, do they want to talk about the Trump crime family? I'll talk about the Trump crime family.
Well, we know there are several crime families. There's, the Biden that crime is surfacing. We know all about the Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. There's, it's almost like our government is warring crime families trying to take control. Anyway, need to let you go. We're at the end of the show. There's the music. Please stay tuned for John Stadmiller. His guest is Roger Landry. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We cannot continue to do this without you. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.